on. Okay. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Living Out Loud. This is a podcast. This is a podcast for domestic abuse and violence victims, survivors, and their support systems. The purpose of it is support, resources, information, experiences, conversation. Katie is joining us again, and Katie is joining us again, not just in a guest capacity. Should I be so bold as to say she is joining us as our drum roll, please? Oh, I knew you could do it because I can't do that. As our co-host.
Yes, I'm super pumped to join. Yeah, I really am.
As our new co-host, and it's because her information and her knowledge is so valuable. So it is such a great addition because you know so much and you can share so much and you can help so much. Then there's me on this side. I just run my mouth. So like we've got you with your brilliance.
Well, let's clarify. I think just running your mouth, you have you have a perspective of questions that are important that I wouldn't necessarily bring up. So you absolutely say things that make me say, "Oh, let me tell you more about that."
Right. I mean, just like the conversation we had last night that I think was supposed to be like a 10-minute call and it was what, like 2 hours.
I know,
It really was.
We should have taken that.
I had the exact same thought. I'm like, we should just go completely candid, but then if we know we're being taped, it won't be candid. So anyway, so Katie is now not a guest.
Thank you.
She is part owner.
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Part owner of Living Out Loud. Now, I know how I'm going to feel about this because
you know, you can hold 51%. I'll just take the 49. Okay. You feel better now?
That's an excellent solution. I don't care. I don't care. You know way more than fucking I do. Okay, so I proposed this to you and I'm gonna do it. We talked about this yesterday.
Yes, go for it.
I thought about it like a little like mini internal segment, right? To this that pertains to areas within domestic abuse and violence. And it's kind of like a ripped from the headlines type of little mini segment, or as I would like to phrase it, join me in the hellscape for a moment. Why don't you? So there were three stories that happened this week, or three that I came across that really stood out to me. And I'm sure some people probably already saw these. I mean, like any one of us, like when I wake up in the morning, I do the Wordle and I do the New York Times mini crossword.
Okay. This is not just for the over 50 crowd, but you know what? You know, my 26-year-old plays the comparison game. So look.
Oh, Connections.
Yeah, that's a good time.
I love Connections. Anyway,
wow,
so
you like were moved that I brought that up. You okay?
Connections. When I discovered Connections, my sister had been telling me to play it forever, and I was like, yeah. And then I finally did, and I don't have a New York Times subscription, so they pulled Connections from the free site, and I like almost had a breakdown because I was like, "How dare they?" Because it got popular, and so now they know they can put it on the behind the paywall, and people are like, "I want my Connections," so they're going to do that. So anyway, I'm still struggling with Connections.
That's another podcast. I want my Connections.
I want my Connections back.
Okay.
I want to be connected with my Connections. New York Times. So, and that's what I do in the morning. And so like I do my word games and then I check my news feed.
Okay.
Right? Like I think like everybody kind of does, right?
Get a grip on what's been going on, sure.
See what's going on in current events, right? You know, and I will say, like, I'm talking about real current events. I'm not talking about J-Lo and Ben Affleck
she's not
possibly having marital problems. Like, who couldn't have foretold that? But whatever.
Not current.
Not news, my friends. Not news. Just putting that out there. And one more thing about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and I'm gonna have to poke my eyes out. But anyway, so the number one story, because I've got three.
Yeah, go for it.
The first one that came across was Bumble, which is a dating app.
Yeah.
AKA Hellscape. decided to put out an advertising campaign
Mhm.
to lure users back, and I'll get to that. But what they chose for their billboards was, and I'm going to read these. One of the billboards says, "You know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer." Another billboard said, "Thou," yeah, okay, it gets back. "Thou shall not give up on dating and become a nun." So these were billboards that were put up.
Pulled right from the Old Testament. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
That's lovely. So Bumble bumbled this one, and the backlash was swift.
Yeah, I bet.
People said, "Pardon me, my choice to be celibate," and this came from this kind of, there's a bit of a backlash on dating apps because a lot of 20 somethings, 30 somethings have become weary.
Just disillusioned by the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, I feel blessed that I never had to go into that world, but I certainly know people that have, and it's just
You
exhausting.
hear the same thing all the time, right? And so people had become weary of dating apps. They'd become weary of the swiping. They've become weary of the hookup culture.
Mhm.
And a lot of, and it seems to be predominantly female, that women have chosen to say, "You know what? I'm just going to take a break, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm going to pull back from this. I'm going to let my subscriptions expire, not renew, whatever." So Bumble actually kind of targeted females.
Yeah, they did.
In the backlash to that, besides women being like, "Oh, by the way, I have a fucking choice if I want to date or not,"
Mhm.
there was a population of people who said, "I'm celibate because I've been sexually abused.
Right.
I have been date raped.
Mhm.
I have been sexually harassed,
Mhm.
whether it's in real life or through the app itself. Okay.
Mhm.
This is what has happened to me. And kind of, how dare you put up on a billboard that what I need to do is get on your app and not give up on dating. And oh, by the way, not become a nun."
Mhm.
Horrible analogy, right? I
I
mean,
can't even imagine that marketing meeting.
especially, well, who are those geniuses?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
especially in a climate, we won't get political, but especially in a climate where reproductive rights seem to be under fire.
Right. Right.
So, Bumble's response. Here we go.
Okay.
And I'm not vilifying Bumble because like they do try to do some good work for, as they call them, marginalized communities and stuff like that. So Bumble, um, they said they've passionately stood up for women in marginalized communities and their right to fully exercise personal choice. "We didn't live up to these values with this campaign. We apologize for the harm it caused."
Mhm.
Okay. So here's what we're doing, they say. "We're removing these ads from our global marketing campaign. Bumble will be making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline."
Nice.
Thank you, Bumble. "Among other organizations, as a part of an ongoing effort to support the work being done around the world to support women, marginalized communities, and those impacted by abuse."
Nice.
Well written. Okay. So whoever wrote that was definitely not the a-hole that was on
That
the
was not the guy
panel.
going, "Hey, I've got a great idea."
That was not the guy in the boardroom about the campaign.
Mhm.
We will also be offering these partners the billboard space to display an ad of their choice for the duration of our reserved billboard time.
Mhm.
So these billboards were actually taken down within 2 days of being.
Wow.
That obviously fits in to this
Right.
as the rapid fire response of a community that had experienced abuse, who has lived with abuse, like, to see something like that, like, oh, the answer is not celibacy. The answer is you not being a nun. The answer is getting on our app, and slogging through, a mediocre carousel
I know,
of,
right?
people who 33% of them are married. I saw that like on a,
Are you
and then,
serious?
yeah, not to get off base, but that's how
Yeah.
Ashley Madison started, which is the cheating website. Okay,
Oh, that,
we,
yeah.
we won't even get there.
Hold on one second. Don't stop talking.
Oh
My
boy.
elderly neighbor, who I adore,
Mm-hmm.
rarely calls me. So I'm
Oh
just
no.
gonna take a little look here. Little
Okay.
look.
Little little looky loo.
Yeah, just a little moment. Um,
It's real life, folks.
yeah.
It's real
Okay,
life.
I'm gonna have to just bow out for just you. Can we pause it? Can we do things like that?
We can pause, or I could just keep talking about the stories,
I need
or
2 minutes. You call it. I'm just gonna back out for a minute. You can keep rocking and rolling. I'll be right back. I'll pop in a hot minute. Gotta check on my buddy next door.
well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually I'll keep talking.
Yeah, keep talking. I'll be right back.
Okay. Keep talking, and then you'll be back. And good luck to your neighbor. All right. So the second story that happened that I came across this week, um, was one, and so this podcast normally concentrates on, or it has so far concentrated on intimate partner violence, but domestic abuse and violence also encompasses children. That is not something that I have concentrated on yet. I'm not trying to be remiss, but it's just a really difficult topic. And so there was a story that I saw again in my newsfeed, and this was through People Magazine. And the title was Mother Arrested. You're back.
I'm back. Everything is fine.
Perfect.
Everything is fine.
Everything's okay.
He just
Okay,
wanted
everything's
to,
okay with the neighbor.
he had a joke to tell me. That's my old man, Paul. Yeah, he did. He said, he's like, Kate, let me tell you. I'm like, Paul, I'm doing a pod. Oh, you're, and Patty, his wife, she's doing a podcast. I'll send him the link. Yeah. But they're fine. All is good.
I was so worried. Okay, Paul and Patty are good. This
Paul
is
and
good
Patty are
news.
good.
This is good news. Okay, so I didn't even really get, so I just
Yeah,
said that
go.
like this podcast is normally, or so far, has concentrated on intimate partner violence, but within the
Yes.
domestic abuse and violence realm, clearly there is abuse of children, and that's hard for anybody who's a parent, but
Yeah.
it is in the realm. So the other, you know, join me in hell story that I saw this week was mother arrested after allegedly keeping 2-year-old son in makeshift cage
Yeah.
covered in human fecal matter.
Yep.
And it says New York State Police said the toddler was discovered covered in human fecal matter and urine. Now, this was in People magazine. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's not that I enjoy reading
No, I
this
remember you
type
telling
of
me about this
stuff,
last night.
people.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not that I enjoy reading it. It's just that when I see something like that, I do read it.
Yeah.
And so I scroll down, People magazine, whatever, it's People. Um, and as I'm reading it, like I saw New York State Police, so I'm thinking, okay, I mean, we are based in New York State,
Right. Sure.
not a mystery, right? And then I scroll down and it's our town,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's our city.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see something like that, and then you also see it's your city, you're like, dude, I want to drive over there and get this kid. Like, where is he right now? Is he with Child Protective
I'm sure
Services?
he
Can
is.
I
Oh
go
yeah,
pick,
absolutely.
can I go pick him up? Like, can I, it's like, and so we are going to broaden the domestic abuse violence, part of this podcast to encompass like kids. I mean,
So I think the key word is domestic.
hard,
I
hard,
think
hard, hard.
yeah, we have to, the key word is domestic, and somewhere down the road that became about male and female partners. And it's not that. I mean,
No,
you
it's
can
not.
qualify, they call it child abuse, but it's still domestic violence. You can
Right.
call Oh my gosh, roommates, that's domestic violence. I mean, it's such a broad scope, and I think opening up that realm is so important.
So that's why, so like these three, so I've got one more.
Mhm.
And so, but I want it, they cover like a spectrum of
Mhm.
within the umbrella, right?
Yep.
So the third one, and this one is probably not really going to be much of a surprise to anybody unless you're living under a rock. CNN obtained footage
Mhm.
of, whatever this son of bitch's real name is, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy,
Yep.
whoever the fuck you are. We got the
How about
footage.
Peepee Diddy? You're a little Peepee Diddy. That's what
Whatever, dude. Like pick a lane on your name. Scott has the footage from 2016
Yeah.
of him beating his girlfriend at
Mhm.
the time, Cassie
Mhm.
Ventura. And it's not pretty, and this can be triggering stuff for people. Okay. When CNN put it out, wasn't like they leaked it, they put it out.
Yeah.
It does say right in the graphic, right? Graphic material, graphic. You know, um, in the video, when you
You know
when it
what? Don't
first,
even actually, Ellen, don't even say it. Let people, if
okay,
they
I
want,
won't,
it's
I
bad.
won't.
So if people, and just,
It's
yeah,
bad.
it's
It's
bad,
bad.
and not for nothing, this whole ideal that we have to put those things on screens, um, and they play it over and over again. And PTSD comes from being re-stimulated over and over again by things. It comes from other reasons too, but um, we're not helping our world by replaying these. We actually shouldn't be playing them at all.
And I want to say, and yes, because I wanted to make this point. Me mentioning these stories is not me sensationalizing them. That
Oh
is
no.
not what I'm doing. What
Yeah.
I am doing is this is what has happened, that this is what I've seen this week. This doesn't even take into
Just this
account
week. Just this
just
week.
this week.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
this doesn't take into account all the other ones. Okay. So I want to say that there is, sometimes when you read these things and they're upsetting or you see them, there is another side. There is something that comes from it. So Cassie Ventura is actually married now, and she's married to someone, and she has two children. And her current husband, the day after this video came out, he posted,
Yep. I love this.
I love it too. And he says, letter to women and children. Men who hit women aren't men.
Mhm.
Men who enable it and protect those people aren't men. As men, violence against women shouldn't be inevitable. Check your brothers, your friends, and your family. Our daughters, sisters, mothers, and wives should feel protected and loved.
Mhm.
Hold the women in your life with the utmost regard. To the abusers, you're done. You're not safe anymore. You're not protected anymore. The men by your side are just as weak. You're so miserable with yourself that death would be considered kindness.
It's a really long t-shirt, but I want to wear it.
And
I
you
mean,
know
it
what?
could be like a really long t-shirt, but
And so he's her current
yeah, she's
husband.
done well. Good for
He
her.
had he stood by her side when she filed the court case that she
Yep.
won. It was settled the day after it was filed.
Yep.
So these were the three items that caught my attention
Got
from
your attention. Yep.
this week's news cycle. Um, hey, like, let's hope next week I'm not on here talking about Bennifer. Okay, like this
Look, you
fucking
are
Taylor Swift. I mean, no
like,
offense, Taylor Swift. I'm sure you're a wonderful person, but God, I am sick of you. So this podcast is not
You know, Ellen, I know you're a Swiftie. I don't know why you're big lying and everything. I mean, you really
Listen,
should.
I did like her early stuff. I really did. I mean, like I did.
I believe
I
you.
just, when someone gets so saturated, like in
Yeah.
society, like so much that you start rooting against them. It's kind of like the New England Patriots, right? You
Oh,
start
right.
rooting against them. Like
You're
you're
like,
like, dude, I'm tired of
it's
you.
like when you eat too much macaroni and cheese and you're like, I don't want to eat it anymore.
I need
I don't
something
want to,
else.
I need
Like, give me
something else.
something else.
Give me a steak.
So,
Yeah.
so that was something else we talked. Okay, that was
Okay.
so we do inject humor, folks, and it's not because we're minimizing or making light of anything, but laughter is the best medicine.
Mhm.
Um, and it doesn't hurt that Katie and I are naturally hilarious. So I mean,
It's just, we can't help it. I
it's
try.
just it's a great combination, right? So now we will pick up. This is narcissism part dos two.
You're
And we want to
bilingual. You're trilingual.
really just with that
Just
one.
numbers.
bit.
Okay, good.
But we want to go back. We want to revisit
Hmm.
because I want to revisit
Hmm.
Cantaloupe Guy from
Hmm.
episode 6.
Yep.
Okay. Cantaloupe Guy, the guy who was so turned around
Yep.
by his relationship or whatever
Hmm.
that he wasn't even fully confident or comfortable enough
In a grocery store to smell a cantaloupe. Yeah.
to smell a cantaloupe in a
Yeah.
grocery store. And that came from what?
So there's an exercise that I do for folks that are in these dynamics, and we touched on it a little bit. Um, I use the analogy, and I don't mean to repeat myself, but just kind of a recap.
Recap.
When you are making decisions based out of fear, we need to get a baseline on how out of control that has become, right? So, you throw a pebble in the water, how far are your ripples of fear, right?
Sure.
So for him, his ripple of fear was cantaloupe. That's pretty far out. He'd been married for 8 years. And so he didn't start out that way, but everything
Right.
had reverberated so much that it became cantaloupes in the grocery store, right?
It's amazing. It's like
So literally,
it's pervasive. It's
it is. It really is. And so I literally started with him smelling cantaloupes in the grocery. It's a very long coming back to yourself in
yeah.
relationships like this is grueling. And I don't pretend to tell people it's not. Some people jump on it and they're on fire and they just blow through it. Some
Mhm.
people take 3 weeks to smell the cantaloupe. Not to keep, bringing up the cantaloupe,
Well,
but it's a good
it
example.
has become our
It's a thing. That's the other
thing.
podcast, smelling the cantaloupe. But um, so literally took him to that. And he was one of those guys that took to it like water because every time he did one of those things, it felt empowering.
Right.
And I said, I want you to feel the fear. I want you to realize it's not real. Nobody's looking at you. One of my favorite things to say is, we're all pretty self-involved. That's how we are. We're worried about how we look. Nobody's looking at you smelling the cantaloupe, man. They're not looking at you. You just think they are because you've been judged for so many years. That's all.
And
So
fear is
then
a
you
liar. Fear is a
Right.
liar, like we
Here's a
talked
liar.
about.
And so
Fear is a
take it
liar.
back. And then, we had to deal with some other things and other things until it went back to the core with his wife. And then
Okay.
all of a sudden he stopped being afraid of her reactions, and it opened his eyes and he saw what was really going on. And since that day, I think I was sharing with you, now he's filed for the divorce and
Right.
he's realized that he deserves more. And he comes in every week. Absolutely. He's actually thinking about going back to school to get his mental health degree because he's so blown away with what the
Well, that's
mind,
amazing.
yeah, he's so blown away with how the mind, he's mentoring all these other guys. He's like, giving them the tools. And that's what
It's
it's really about.
incredible.
You
Yes,
teach them
yes.
and then they teach each other and you want them to be self-reliant. I don't need them to be in with me all the time. You got the tools, they're working, tell your buddies. And he's great.
And what a
Even his
what a
physical,
purpose. What a
yes.
purpose,
And his
right?
physical transformation, when I first saw this man, he held himself rigid. I mean, he was rigid. And initially I think I told you, saw the couple together. And now he's loose and he's expressive and his self-esteem is better. he realizes he deserves more, and now he loves to talk about, kind of like what you and I were talking about. Why did I fall for it? What is it in me? I want to change me. And he has, and it's I feel so honored to see things like that. I can't even tell you, it makes me teary-eyed. It's just what a beautiful thing to witness.
And you know what? I love the fact that you get to witness that.
Oh my God,
You
I
know,
love
like
it.
talk about being restoring faith in humanity, right? Like talk about
Yeah.
taking that home with you and being like, you know what? Maybe the world isn't such a shit show, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe there is some friggin' hope, you know, maybe to see someone alter,
Yeah.
right? Like in front of your eyes, physically,
Literally.
mentally,
Yeah.
emotionally alter in
Yeah. All
front of
of it.
your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that guy is smelling every goddamn cantaloupe in every store
I
he
saw him
walks
last
into.
week. It was so funny when we were talking last week, because you and I have been talking the cantaloupes, you know. And I said, "So, are you still smelling cantaloupes?" He goes, "Well,"
Smell it all.
he's like, "I gave a watermelon a good sniff. You know, they don't smell like anything." And so I said, and so then I like high-fived him. I'm like, "Cause that looks weirder than a cantaloupe, man. I'm just saying." I said, "You've just like gone to the next level. You're smelling watermelons and they don't even smell like them." And he was laughing. So I'm like, that's
What a
how you,
what a
that's not how you,
breakthrough.
I'm like, it's not how you test a watermelon. I mean, smell away. But so yeah, he's smelling the stuff.
As much as we're laughing, God bless him,
I know.
right?
I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for him.
God bless him. You
Yeah.
know, seriously.
Mm-mm.
I couldn't even I couldn't tell you how you know that a watermelon's good, folks. But I'm gonna start smelling them. Just wanted to start to.
Just, be the weird person. Do it.
Dude, you know what? I tell my kids all the time, and you know, side eye, mom. There's no weird, there's no normal.
Yeah.
Okay. We're
Mm-mm.
all friggin' weird, all friggin' normal.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you want to go smell a watermelon because you want to get the biggest bang for your buck. Watermelon, especially in
Well,
this economy.
the next step of the question, the next step of the process, what I shared with him, I said, the next piece of this is that you are excited and not afraid to try new things and learn. And you're
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
The bigger issue is, when you're in a relationship with someone like that, the fear of rejection or judgment's out of control. So when I
Right.
pointed out to him, once I told him you don't need to smell a watermelon, but I thought it was awesome, he's like, I didn't know. I said, but what's even better is that you
How
didn't
you do?
care. You didn't care, man. You didn't
You
care about the
didn't care,
judgment. And he goes, it seemed weird, but I mean,
but you didn't care,
didn't
right? It's
care.
like,
Yeah.
you know, as long as he's not going to the grocery store like shirtless and in his pajama bottoms.
No, that's when we start getting to the other side of the spectrum with people who don't have, yeah, no, he's nicely dressed and he's smelling water. I mean, we're good.
Could be worse.
So
Which
the
is a
healing process is amazing and it's always possible. You just have to have the courage to do it because it's really scary. And when you stop living in a
sure.
world of fear, it's everything changes, your self-esteem, your presentation,
That
the people
world
that
is
you,
all right
yeah,
here.
and the people, and you know this, when you let that go, the people you draw into your world are different too.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
What law of attraction, right? You
for sure.
bring in what you put out.
I do that a lot. I every time, everybody's like, well, am I in a good place? Am I, doing the right thing? And then I look at the people around me and I'm like, I'm golden because these people would not be hanging with me if I was trouble. Look
You're
outside yourself, see what's,
trouble. You're trouble.
well,
Just
I
in a
mean,
good way.
trouble
Trouble in a good
in a
way,
good
you know.
way.
Trouble in a good way. So okay,
So yeah,
so this
he's great.
so I'm very happy for Cantaloupe Man. Now he's even watermelon guy. I
He's
mean,
watermelon man.
talk about branching out, right? Like
Yeah. He's
he's really
blazing watermelon
he's
trails.
really
That's right.
crossed over. He's
He
crossed.
has.
You know
Yeah.
what? Tell him to start a garden. It might be easier. Um,
Smell all the things. Yep.
so what I wanted to mention next is talking about narcissism and continuing this conversation. This is our part to um Out of the Fog,
Yes,
right?
you
Out
have
of the Fog.
spoken of this.
This
It,
is a book,
it,
okay?
yeah.
It's by Dana Morningstar. It is called
Mhm.
Out of the Fog: Moving from Confusion to Clarity After Narcissistic Abuse.
Yes.
Okay. And the part that I wanted to read, or the part that I wanted to talk about, is
Mhm.
when she talks about how people who are fully in it, like cantaloupe, watermelon, maybe we just call him Melon Guy because they're both melons. I mean, it might be easier.
Just call him Mr.
Uh,
Melon. He's Mr.
Mr.
Melon now.
Melon. Mr. Melon. You're
Yeah.
one in a melon, Melon Guy.
You didn't.
Uh,
Oh my goodness.
I did. I did. I did like a dad joke. I totally did.
Wow, you legit.
Um,
Okay, you just said that.
I'm
All right.
multifaceted, Katie. I
And
mean,
it was quick. I mean, it was just like
I
nice.
got rapid fire wit, rapid fire. Um,
Okay,
I'm such an ass. So in this book, she has this little section where people who are involved in narcissistic relationship with a narcissistic person
yeah.
tell themselves as things are happening, well, it could be worse. Well, it could be worse. It
Sure.
could be worse. And she says, you know, people tell them that, they tell themselves that to rationalize
Mhm.
and to also minimize their partner's behavior,
Absolutely.
especially if they want to stay
Yep.
in the relationship.
Mhm.
So they decide that these things aren't a deal breaker because it could be so much, you know, there could be so much worse than it is now. So like some of the quotes that she provides, you know, she racked up about $1,000 of credit card debt without me knowing, but it could be worse. It could be 5,000. Well, yeah, he yells a lot, but it could be worse. I mean, he's never yelled at me in front of the kids. Oh, she calls me names, but she only yells at me like that. It could be worse. I mean, at least she doesn't give me the silent treatment like my mom used to do.
There you
And
go.
here's
There
where
you go.
he yells at
Yep.
me at the kids, but it could be worse. I mean, at least he doesn't hit us, right? Well, she hits us, but it's not that often, and it could be worse. I mean, she could hit us every day, right?
Mhm.
He hit me a few times. It was never in my face. It could be worse. It could be in my face, and it could leave a bruise.
Yep.
She hit me and left a bruise. It's not that big. It could be worse. He beat me up, but didn't break any bones. So it could be worse.
Mhm.
Oh, she broke one of my ribs and fractured my arm, but it's not that bad. I was only in the hospital for a couple of hours. It could be worse,
Mhm.
right? It could be worse. It could be worse. It could be
Well, there's
worse.
two pieces
Okay.
to that. All right. There's two
It's
pieces.
already pretty bad enough, my friends.
Yeah.
It's already
So two
pretty bad.
pieces. So if your baseline is already skewed, like that one quote, like my mother, right? So if you come into relationships with your baseline already skewed, then your measuring device is fucked, basically. I mean,
Right.
you have to consciously choose a measuring device. You don't walk in with the one you were brought up with, right? So
Right.
that's a given. The second piece is if we acknowledge in any aspect, right? If we acknowledge there's something dysfunctional happening, then the next
Okay.
step is what? Change. So we often avoid change, whether it's I admit to my drinking, then I have to stop drinking. If I admit to the abuse, I have to leave the relationship. If I admit to gambling too much, I have to stop. So it's the next step. That's why people go into this place where they make excuses because they know if I don't, I have to stop.
I have to stop.
I have to stop. And what is that? And that's scary. And what that looks like. So if I my
Change is hard, right?
yeah,
Change is hard.
yeah. And my dear friend, one of my dearest friends, we have this concept called, and the other thing is if you choose to stay in those dynamics, it'll take its toll on you, right? I mean, not only emotionally, physically, it'll change you. And you see people that we used to call it not looking at their shit. You look at somebody who's just kind of like flat, dead, maybe not dealing with their hygiene. She and I would be like, not looking at your shit, man. Not looking at your shit. Because when you are looking at it and you're in it and you're consciously changing it, it doesn't eat away at you.
Okay.
because it takes its toll.
Yeah.
It's just like I said about Melon Man. He looks different now. When he
Good.
first
How
walked in,
great.
he even had tics. He had nervous tics, and those are gone.
I'm so happy for him.
I am too.
I don't even know the guy, and I'm so happy for him.
I
I
am too.
mean,
Yep.
I mean, what a revelation. So this was something that we wanted to get into. And part
Mhm.
of these, like, it could be worse little scenarios that I read
Sure.
mention parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as we said, in the beginning with my, join me in hell, won't you, mini segment. Obviously, domestic abuse and violence, it is not just intimate partner.
No.
It is parents,
Hmm.
right? Child
Absolutely.
abuse.
Yeah.
So you and I decided to tackle, or you tackle, because you're the pro. I'm just gonna listen.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
the one with the student debt. Yeah, that's right.
I'll be the dude. When I paid off my last student loan payment after
Mhm.
a bachelor's and a master's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was one of the longest relationships I ever had was with my student loan
I,
debt.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, got all the letters behind my name.
It was bittersweet. And so narcissistic
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
So
So
you're on.
no pressure. Okay.
Never any pressure.
It's interesting because I see one of two things happen. Either a narcissist sheds all that behavior, and the purity of these children in their lives gives
Mm.
you the best version of them, and they become amazing. But the minute they turn their head from that child, they're back into that other behavior.
Right.
Oh, you need to say something. What do you need to
No,
You're,
I'm listening. Why?
you're
Because I'm tapping.
well, you're doing your I can feel your brain moving. Yeah. So
It's always moving. It's like torture. All right, keep going.
so so one or two things happen, right?
Mhm.
Um, however, in the growing up process, if you have a parent who is, and let's actually just separate I am not even looking at narcissism completely. So say, and we talked a little bit about this, and I'm not going to repeat myself, but a parent that's completely self-involved, right? And whether it's narcissistic behavior, whatever it is, but the child is not the priority. When you grow up in an environment with you are not the priority, it changes your brain.
Okay.
So you can then become a people pleaser, because you need to please the person that's going to take care of you, right? And that happens, and that's developed over time with a parent. The next stage, which I think is important to talk about. So you have heard the diagnosis Munchausen's by proxy, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So just to
What's
clarify for
what's
people,
what's her name? She's the oh
she
God.
just got out of jail.
What's her name?
Oh, I should know. Yeah, I feel terrible. Somebody will comment her name when we put this up. Nope,
Ruby,
not
something.
Ruby.
No.
But
No, it's Gypsy Rose
Gypsy
Blanchard.
Rose, yes, killed her mother. So a
After
lot
some
of,
pretty serious shit
yeah.
that happened to her. Okay.
So
Yeah.
so narcissists, they need that gratification and attention, right?
Okay.
And so now I'm going to do the flip side of the unhealthy narcissistic parent, right? So they will capitalize on anything. Look at my beautiful garden. Because you brought up Mr. Mellon having a garden, and then everybody just comes and flocks from the neighborhood. Look at my garden. It's so good. You just, yes, I worked so hard. So
Right.
imagine now you have a child, right? It's much more than a
Okay.
garden, right? So um, these folks will capitalize on getting attention by proxy. And by proxy doesn't mean child. It could be a dog, anything that's on the side. Proxy's on the side, right? So Munchausen's is just, I'm going to feign this illness so you'll give me the attention I need. Still very narcissistic behavior, but they're going to do
Okay.
victim instead of power, right?
Right, right.
So they're just going to come at it from a different angle. By proxy is when you bring in another thing to make it happen as well. Most folks with Munchausen's, I'm trying not to go down a huge sideline here, but most folks with Munchausen's by proxy have already probably had some Munchausen's prior to their child. So this is an extreme version of narcissism going awry, and this kind of situation can arise. And I have had clients with parents. I worked with children for years, and watching parents capitalize on their child's mental illness was one of the reasons I had to let clients go, because I was going to kill them. You know, the parent just say, but I can't. That's a horrible thing to
Or turn them into CPS or something. I
well,
mean,
it's,
like,
you know, I mean, not that they can also, there's a subtler way where when the child is being diagnosed or something, and a narcissist then plays the victim. Oh, give me the attention. I have a mentally ill child. Look at me. Oh, what am I? Right. So that
I can see
narcissistic
it.
piece,
I
yeah,
can see it.
that
Yep.
piece, remember. So the narcissism, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, is that grandiose, put me on stage, give me all the attention. And with children, because they're directly connected to you, it's an easy by proxy way to get it. So that would be the unhealthy version of the narcissist being a parent. That happens.
I was going to say it's pretty sick and twisted, but
Yep.
like, you know, again, I want to have empathy and compassion for mental health issues.
And
But
we'll
that's
talk
pretty
about
sick and
that.
twisted. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
let me
mean, you know,
just give you the
yeah.
other part of that is oh shoot, what was I gonna say? I lost the thought. But yes, we will talk about how that manifests in people and why.
Right.
And I think it's so important is with every new beginning in your life, whether it's a new child, whether it's a new relationship, there's a reset in your brain that gives you the
Mm.
opportunity to make new choices.
I like that.
It
I
does,
like that. So
you
make
know?
the right one.
Yeah. So you have a child, new opportunity, literally resets your brain because this new thing happened, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and there's this moment, and I've talked to people about it when people have been honest enough with me to talk about these levels of dysfunction, which come with a lot of shame. And I give people so much credit when they talk about these things, because there's so much, when you're really looking at it, it's, the shame is immense. It's, I've just kind of held still with people in that shame looking at it. But they recognized that moment when they could change. I've had this child, or I ended that dynamic, and now all of a sudden I see clearly, and I'm terrified that I'm going to repeat this behavior. And there is it's an amazing thing to watch. And but some people, they don't. They go, like I was saying, not looking at my shit, that's too hard. I'm just going to capitalize over here on this person's weakness, you know. And I do believe, I have this theory, and I'm not saying it's proven, I've just seen it. Everybody gets a few opportunities at a crossroads to change your behavior, right? And you're lucky if you get 2 or 3. You're lucky. They call it an addiction rock bottom, or whatever you want to say.
Right. Right.
But what I've seen happen is, if you don't take one of those roads, if you don't take that higher road and you keep going down that other path, it's almost as you're so lost you believe your delusion, you believe your own self, and it's sad, you
It
know.
is, and you know, like my good friend, um, she made a comment the other day, the high road is the hard road, right?
It is.
Like the high road is the hard road. Um, you want to take the path of least resistance, which a lot of people do. You'll continue to exhibit the same behavior and you'll have the same results.
Yeah.
High road is the hard road.
Yeah.
And you don't come across a lot of people on it. Right. So, okay. So that was another question that I had when we talk about narcissistic parents, you know, and how that can manifest. But, and we talked about narcissism being like, you know, a personality disorder.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you have a narcissistic parent,
Mhm.
can that behavior be learned?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what you have witnessed is if you play victim or you play all charismatic, powerful, one extreme or the other, that gets your needs met, right? And so you have needs now as a child because you've been neglected, right? Your needs have been capitalized by your parent. So your true needs they're not there. They haven't been met. I'm sorry, they're there. They just haven't been met. So, and this is the epitome of learned behavior, right? So now I look at my examples and I say, hey, she or he get their needs met by doing this, being super grandiose or whatever, and things happen, or fall victim and things happen. So, yes, in fact, it's pretty common for children of narcissistic parents to engage in that behavior at some point. The difference is, do they stop and why?
Okay.
And for younger people, maybe sometimes it's whatever, who knows? Everybody's got a different motivation. Hopefully it's just like, wow, I'm acting like my parent. I don't want to be that. And so then they're like, I got to change it up. I got to find a different way to get my needs met.
Or
But
the response to the behavior is not what the person
it's not what
wanted.
they really wanted, because going back, that's a very good point, Alan, because then you see, you're like, oh, I don't really want anybody to fawn or try to bandage me up. I'm not a victim. That you might not have, the response might not be what you want. But either way, something ideally clicks. If not, then we've got another generation of the same person.
Well, I mean, the same person that like you were sharing, last night when we were talking, that you've worked with people who have come to you and said, like, help me stop this,
Yeah,
right? Like, help me stop this.
it's
And that's
amazing. Yeah,
probably because when something starts to not work for you,
yeah.
and when your behavior is basically pushing people away, or
Pushing,
people
that's
are,
usually the key. People are being pushed away, and I don't have anybody now. What happened? Yeah, I used to have
what
everybody.
happened?
Yeah,
People have left me. People don't want
people have
anything to
left.
do with me.
And maybe, and they have this little epiphany. Some of them, everybody keeps telling me it's me. Maybe there's a piece of truth in that, you know? And so then they come to a therapist, which is pretty rare, but it happens.
You know what though? But it's like, but the stuff that you were telling me on the phone when
Mhm.
we were talking last night, and we won't totally go into it because it's probably something we'll end up talking about anyway.
Sure.
Um, that gives again, like such restores faith in humanity, right? Like makes you think, oh my gosh, right? Like I say, hope over fear, trust over worry, right? Like, like it makes you happy to know, or glad to know, that like some people, when they say like people can't change, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not so much that people can't change, but they can evolve.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if they see something, or they just, it's always going to be some kind of, like we talked about, your currency, your trigger, whatever. It's going to be something. It's going to be something like with someone who is narcissistic, whether they've got the 9 or 5 or 3 or 9, right?
Yeah. Right.
They're going to lose something that's really important to them.
Yes. And I do have to, I'm glad you brought that up. The folks that have come to me are not the ones who have the 8 of 9. The
Mhm.
ones that come to me, and just to recap so people understand, is we're talking about the 9 different characteristics of a diagnosable narcissistic personality disorder. And the ones that I'm talking about that have come to me are more like they have 3 qualities, 3 or
Right.
4. The 8s, I
Those
I
people, those people might be done, right? Like
I
they might,
personally, I think they might have
they
gone down.
probably don't
I
come
think
in.
they
Right.
believe their own story now.
Right. 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 Like
Mhm.
they create their own narrative. They
Yeah.
change it when they
I
want.
have had them in the office, and it's kind of fun. I mean, because I go, oh, so wow, you're pretty
That's,
awesome, huh?
is that some kind of therapist humor? Like, this is a good time, man. Like,
Well, it's just like, because
is that your fun, Katie? No, I'm kidding.
that's a
I'm
good
kidding.
time. Yeah, we just sit around, just yeah. But I
You
mean,
just you just sit there going,
I
holy
just
shit,
there's
I got a
yeah.
live
I
one.
mean,
I'm
if
gonna
you want
talk
to
to this
come,
guy.
I always offer that they can come and see me by themselves if they'd like to look at some stuff that might or might not be part of how they're contributing to this dynamic. They don't, but you know.
Because in their head, they're like, well, I'm not contributing to this dynamic, so I
Right.
see no reason to
And
come back.
they, you know, classic therapists that's even going to point any of that stuff out. Well, she doesn't know what she's talking, you know. And that's life, you know, but there is hope,
That is
and
life.
I've seen it. And oh, Ellen, to sit in those moments where someone has to really look at their shit in regard to the things they capitalize to get their needs met and their attention and all of that. And whether it was at the detriment of their children or their partner or their job or their animals. Um, and for some people, they can't listen to that stuff. But personally, for me as a therapist, anybody that's willing to do something that courageous, I have compassion for. So I can work with
You
anybody.
have to.
Yeah, I
You
can work
have
with
to.
anybody as long as they're going to look at it, you know?
You know what? And I actually, and that just made me think of something that I had thought about like weeks ago. And getting to the point of having empathy for someone,
Mhm.
especially someone who was the major stressor in your life or the
Mhm.
major, I'm going to talk on a very personal note.
Sure.
I have not quite gotten to the point where I can drum up 100% empathy for my ex-husband.
Mhm.
I will be completely honest. Most likely because these were not isolated incidents and things continue to this day.
Well, there's the point. I said people that are willing to take accountability and look at their shame. That's different.
But the thing is, I want to have empathy for him. Like I want to. And
Hmm.
I actually, I actually want there to be, and I think there are, and I hope there are, but again, we run into the narcissistic wall, resources, programs, information, support
He's got to have,
groups.
people have to have that moment. Oh, yes, the resources are there. I mean, but the first thing is saying, hi, I do bad things. And I say mean things and I'm hurtful. And if a narcissist gives up that identity, just like we were talking about before, that means they have to change. And that's terrifying. That means vulnerability. That means honesty. That means shame. And the longer you wait, the higher that wall becomes. And sometimes the wall becomes so high that you don't even know that there's another side.
Insurmountable.
Yeah.
Insurmountable.
That's why you got to take those little moments, I could see them in people sometimes
Mm.
where they had those moments. And that's when I just say, so, hey, if you want to come and I just had one recently, dynamic, married couple, 25 years, and some shit's going down. And there he was. And I saw that fleeting moment. And I said, and if you want to come just meet with me and look at why that's going on. And I hope he does.
There's a chance.
Yeah, there is a chance. Yeah,
There's
he's
a
got like
chance.
4 out of the 9. So, and
You just gotta like chisel away. Like you gotta hit one. You gotta get the yeah.
I
So
love what I do. It's just I feel every day I'm just so honored. That level.
yeah, and that comes through, and I think that's amazing. And like we were talking about another new segment in
Yeah,
our episode.
it's not Taylor Swift again, is it?
It's fucking not Taylor Swift. I apologize, Taylor Swift, because now it's going to seem like I hate you. I
It's
really
not.
don't. I don't hate you. I don't hate anybody.
Yeah,
I just,
it's just God bless her. You just reel it back a bit. We got it. We
just,
got it.
like take like a 4-year break, like
We won't
after this
forget
era,
you. We
after
won't
the
forget
eras.
you.
No one's going to forget you. Your shit's all over the place.
Yeah.
So just bask in your
Go bask.
professional
Go do some
accomplishments.
basking. Okay, so tell me what was the other one? What you were gonna say, not Taylor Swift.
Not Travis Kelce. Okay, so not P. Diddy Puffy, like all these other goddamn Kendrick Lamar and Drake, like all
y'all.
sit together. Seriously, we're done with you. So,
Yes.
Katie's final words.
Oh, you have a thought. You want a thing. I see.
Katie's tips.
My words of wisdom.
Your words of wisdom that come from years of practice and experience, right?
Well,
So this is our second episode on narcissism.
mm-hmm.
We will have a third, but that will be kind of like the rounding out of like this whole thing.
Yeah. And there's tons of different reasons why. We've got lots of people who engage in abusive behavior that are narcissists, and we'll talk about that too. You know, we can
So
go.
what would be the number one?
Smell your melons. No.
Be kind to your fruit. All right.
Be kind to your fruit.
And become friends with the fruit. And who cares what the guy who's looking at romaine lettuce thinks
That's
about.
a t-shirt. Smell your melons. We need merch. Smell your melons. Living out loud. But truly though.
Living out loud with like a cantaloupe on it. And
yeah.
everyone, the 103 people that have watched this will know exactly what that means.
We'll give them the t-shirts. We'll just give it to
like
them.
a grassroots movement. Okay, so
what
would be the number one thing you would say? What's your number one tip?
Right now, let's see. Let's do it week by week. So my theme at work today or this week has been. It's been a week.
I would think every week's a week in your
it's been a little different this week. Not that I can get into it because I do have top level
forgot your
clearance, which is we're not getting into that either. But
still intimidated.
Do not unintentionally re-traumatize yourself.
That's a good one.
So you need to be more thoughtful,
mindful
about what you're going to watch, what you are going to surround yourself with. Even if it feels familiar, it does not mean it's a good idea.
Got you.
Even if it's some strange way it feels safe, but you know it's attached to things that maybe aren't that great, don't do it. It'll set you back. It'll set you back and in ways you don't realize. So don't unintentionally re-traumatize yourself. Think about what you're about to put in front of your eyes.
Like it. And I'm just gonna say, like in a you know, Netflix and all that shit, something that really bothers me, and I haven't watched it because I won't watch it, is how the Netflix series Baby Reindeer has become their and it's about stalking. And there was another series on Netflix, I don't know if it's still going, that was called You. And it was also
about stalking too,
It was also about stalking. And the guy in You, the lead character.
But they ended up glamorizing him, right?
Okay, so I want to talk about that. So people loved this show, right? And he was also in Gossip Girl. Penn Badgley is his name. That's came to me. I only watched a couple of the first episodes. I was like, no. So he was getting like fan mail, right? Like he was getting like, and he in an interview, and I will find.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to stop you because it's 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, I have to go. But I actually want to do a whole topic on that, Ellen.
Okay, then we will. And I will write down my Penn Badgley story.
Media glorifies these types of behaviors.
Thank you.
Yeah, in addition to
writing it down
media glorifies mental illness, and we romanticize stalkers, we romanticize murderers. True crime is off the scale in regard to, look at how Netflix, they're all capitalizing on that. And I think we need to talk about this. There is a part of the human mind that loves a mystery, right? We love to follow that
stuff. Some good Agatha Christie.
Right, but
this is my jam
because it's romanticizing stalkers, and in our society, we still, the laws for stalking are, and we still minimize. And I'd love to talk about the stages of stalking and how that leads to other things. And it is a preliminary behavior that often can progress into sometimes murder.
Okay, so there's a good teaser.
Yeah. Look what we did.
Folks. So again, you matter. Katie's got a jet.
Mhm.
I have to kind of jet. It's Sunday, like it's friggin' gorgeous outside. I probably have to mow my lawn again.
Oh, I have to mow my
So
lawn.
like over and over again. But okay, so viewers, listeners, you
Did you say
matter.
over and over again you have to mow your lawn?
Dude, I've mowed it like twice this week. It just the dandelions are absolutely out of control. Like,
I
and
get
wait till
started.
the helicopters start. So
Yeah,
okay,
time.
so
You got time.
ending line, you matter.
Bye.
We'll be back next week. Katie and Ellen, it is a 51-49
That's right. 51-49.
oh,
More merch.
percentage.
More merch.
And we are excited and we have so much to say.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's endless.
And we're gonna say it.
Yeah. And if anybody, but 101 of our viewers, if anybody's like got a topic that they feel like they really want us to cover, just
The
jump right
email,
in.
yeah, the email is at the slide at the end, folks.
Yeah,
If you
do it.
watch
Do
all
it,
the way
do
to the end. So, okay, Katie,
Yeah.
awesome. Again,
All right, go mow your lawn.
I'm gonna go. No, I'm having one of the boys do it. What are you kidding me?
Oh, right.
What do you
I'm
think
too
this
anal. I
is?
won't let my
What do you
son
think
do it.
this is? This is a monarchy over here. I'm queen. I'm queen, baby. All right, I will see you
Oh.
next week.
Oh,
See you
that.
next week.
Okay, bye next
Okay,
week.
bye.